Well, this is a first. We're about to do something I have never done on this channel, which is a garden tour in December. We are experiencing extremely mild conditions here, like many people are, which is fine for me, probably not entirely great for plants, although I have no doubt it will change, and definitely not good if you're into any sort of sport that involves snow, because we've had basically none other than one good snowfall in November. So because of these mild conditions, the garden is looking really great in some places, like shockingly great in some places. So I thought, well, let's take a look. And something to think about while you watch this is none of this would be here if I had cut down my garden. So I am enjoying just some really beautiful areas of the garden because I left everything stand. So come on, let's go take a look. So I wanted to start over here in the driveway garden because this is sort of the most natural type planting probably there is in the garden, and it's looking so good. So this grass over here, this is Millennia Transparent. There are two of them planted there. I had originally planted three, moved one last year. Now this coming year I will move one again because they're just filling up so much. Down here we have a blue shag eastern pine, which has been a little bit stressed, I think, because I had not acidified the soil enough. It's coming out of that a little bit. But the Millennia grass is standing up tall, blowing around in the breeze, just beautiful. The Sesleria, which I continue to really have at the top of my list for one of my favorite ornamental grasses, is still green, still standing tall, looking great. This Cornus moss has some really nice buds on it. This is the Cornelian cherry dogwood. We planted another one of these between us and the neighbors, but you can see how there's some nice fat buds on there. Typically this blooms at the same time as the forsythia for us. This shrub or multi-trunk tree has really grown quite a bit. You can actually see at the top, I think, how much growth it puts on in a year. You'll see when we get up to these branches up here. The gray stuff at the bottom, that's old growth, and then the red tips on all these is new growth. So that's over a foot of new growth there. So really going strong. And what these do is get wide as they age. So I had planned for that, of course, when I planted here. And so it's really starting to get some of that width that I had been planning for. But then we've just got, other perennials that are left standing. This is Veronicastrum, which I think is beautiful. In fact, I used some of that for some sort of dried arrangements. And then in here, there's a mixture of grasses and other perennials that I've left standing that still look great. Much of this is, I think a lot of this is, like this is Agastache, Agastache. Pick your name there. That is held up really well here. Before we walk around to the other side of the garden, always and forever great winter interest is this Hacklencloa macra. This is the straight species that is planted here on the edge of the driveway, and this can get completely flattened by snow and it will pop right back up again. It's quite tall. This patch is taller than this plant is supposed to be. I can't explain why it does that. I'm not angry about it. It just seems to be very happy here. On the The Geranium macrorhizum looks as good as it's ever looked in winter, I think. This is kind of sort of evergreenish, but also it gets this beautiful sort of coppery red color. That patch looks really great. It looks great everywhere. More Hacklencloa, although this is primarily all gold here. So here's a quick example of one of the ways that I protect plants from deer. So this little tree in the center here is Big Apple dogwood, Cornus cusa Big Apple. And it's a very new tree. I just planted it last year. It's relatively small. The deer actually didn't bother it at all over the summer, but winter is a different story. So actually what I've done is I put in some stakes These are just these, I get these at the hardware store. And then I put this deer mesh around it. Now, you can barely see this. This is really, I bought the cheap one on Amazon and I shouldn't. It's a deer could chew right through it. A rabbit certainly could. It is not good quality and you get what you pay for, and I learned that lesson. But I've wrapped that around, but I've also wrapped it, it's very hard to see because it's so thin. Let me try this angle. I've also wrapped it over the top of this plant too. So unless they chew a hole through the middle of this netting, which they could do, this plant is fully protected because I just, you know, a lot of times if you can just have stuff get off to a good start, it does pretty well for a long time. Speaking of evergreen interest, check out Blue Zinger Carex. Can be a little bit aggressive / invasive in some areas, so check locally before you go planting it. But this grass is beautiful and nice and green. The feverfew that has self-seeded through here still looks great with that great frilly foliage. And just a nod to nature here with this. Is this called turkey tail fungi here? It's so pretty on this stump. This is the big stump. This giant stump right here is the stump that created this garden. So this garden came about because this ash tree, where this stump is, was enormous. And like all of the ash trees in our area, it succumbed to emerald ash borer. So we had to cut it down. And when we cut it down, what had been growing here, which was honestly a mix of weeds, there were some nice native plants in there too, but nothing we had planted. It was an uncultivated area. When we cut this tree down, the weeds and the invasives took over. So that's why we decided to make this, I decided to make this garden, because it was clear that it was either going to be a weedy mess over here or something I wanted. And this is the Carex plantaginia that I planted this year. Look at how nice and evergreen that is. There's also some epimediums in here that still have some great color on it. Some of the brilliance ferns, Dryopteris, I forget what it is, but brilliance I believe is the cultivar name on that. Those are looking great. All through here is Carex pennsylvanica, all looking good, although browning out a little bit. And then there's nothing really of note in this garden over here, except to say that there's just some beautiful texture here. It's all shades of brown, but there's some beautiful texture that's happening over here. And the same thing over here. As you know, I've been working on this part of the garden over the past summer. This will continue. So, you know, there's just nothing specific necessarily that's super great over here, but the whole feel is quite nice and natural. So over here in Roy's garden, again, the grasses are just the absolute star of the show over here. They have a really beautiful light yellow color over here. We'll be amending this bed a little bit and probably moving some of these grasses around and taking some out, just because we got a little heavy on one side with them. But it sure is pretty over here. I always leave my alliums standing. I think this one is Millennium. I'm not sure. It doesn't really matter. I always leave them standing. They're so pretty and they stand up nice and tall. This garden, the finger, as I call it, is looking, I would say, a little shabby. Some of the Amsonia in there has really flopped. That's mostly what I think the big, most messiest thing is in there. That's looking pretty rough. This is this Drops of Jupiter oregano, and it's really pretty at the end of the stems, but it's quite tall and brown and floppy. So actually I would say this one is not exactly showing a lot of really great winter interest compared to some of the other gardens. All the hydrangeas are still standing. Even this garden, this is the tall in the middle of this garden is the monk's hood. Which has obviously done its thing. I love the look of the, you know, that golden color of the hydrangeas throughout the winter. We do have some sort of special surprises over in this garden. First of all, this is Feather Falls Carex. newly planted this year. Actually borderline hardy. I wasn't sure if it would be hardy. And I guess we still don't know. But look at how good, and it's looking just as good now as it did in summer. It's absolutely amazing. This is what I want to show you though. First of all, look at the hellebores, are just looking great. So a note on hellebores here. Hellebores do not bloom for me until like sometimes even like April. Often even, no, I would say even May. So when I went looking into these hellebores just to see what was going on, you're not going to believe what I found. Check this out. In the middle of these hellebores, we've got some new growth right there. It's all over the place. This is completely and totally unheard of for this area. So I'll just show you the front quickly too, because there's a couple things looking remarkably good over here too. So here's some more Feather Falls Carex that I had planted. Again, looking just absolutely fabulous here. If it lives, I will work it right into this bed for next year. Of course, I still have all my containers up. We did take the lights out of most of them today, actually, because it was a nice day to get that done. I will leave the lights on in the container, the urn in the center here, for a long time, because I like looking at it. It looks really pretty at night. But look along the front of this bed. This is Ascot Rainbow Euphorbia. Now, this plant is, again, one of those borderline hardy things for us. Some places will say zone 6, some people will say 5B. That's right where we are now, is somewhere between a 5B and a 6A. And I have grown this as an annual before in pots and then tried to transplant it out of pots. And it has never survived for me. But these guys are obviously looking absolutely fabulous here at the front of the border. And I don't know if I would keep them here if they make it through the winter or not, but I would have these plants and I could certainly transplant them somewhere else if I felt like I wanted to do that. This garden has some more Cecularia in it, which just looks great. I love the fuzzy seed heads on Clematis. This is Stand By Me, and I love these little fuzzy seed heads. I mean, that's equally interesting to look at in my book. Of course, we have evergreens, which helps the mix. This Japanese maple, Moonrise, did not lose its leaves yet. They will fall off eventually, but we had that really early cold snap, and the leaves just kind of browned up and have stayed there. It's fine. It won't hurt the plant in any way. There are big fat buds. I mean, big fat like green buds on the climbing hydrangea. That's probably not okay. But the climbing hydrangea looks great. I mean, the one really nice thing with this climbing hydrangea is that I think they look beautiful even in winter when there's nothing on them, because those flowers stay on. They are persistent on there, and they just they have this really nice ethereal look, and they just sit here. It's actually kind of amazing how far out from the wall this is coming now, which I hadn't actually noticed before. A few other things. We've got a heuchera down here. I don't know which one that is, but it's still looking nice and purple. The hornbeams at the back here, they do hang on to their leaves, which is really nice. They will drop them, at some point here, but these older ones hung on to them better than the newer ones down the line here. But anyway, so they hold on to their leaves, which still provides some screening, but also looks great. The green you see in there is a clematis. I think it's pink mink that grows up this particular hornbeam, so that's quite fun. And the black that you see there is my mushroom log. This newly planted bed over here is kind of crazy that it still looks as good as it does. This is some ajuga, that's black scallop. There's actually, this is pulmonaria in there. I think it's Diane Claire maybe. There's some foxgloves that have still really nice green growth on them. And then of course we've got some more Geranium macrorhizum in here. Rather shocking how good that looks. And then this bed always carries some nice winter interest too, with the limelight hydrangeas in the back, Hacklencloa, Millennium, alliums, more Hacklencloa. You get the idea. I thought I'd bring you over by the newly planted tree area between us and the neighbors. I never did give you a fall tour over here because the plants were so new that they didn't all do fall color at one time. Some didn't get any fall color. The firespire hornbeams went really early and then dropped their leaves early. But I think you'll get a taste for what this mixed hedge looks like in winter, because it's not a full evergreen hedge, it's not a solid hedge. So let's take a look at that. The hemlock is the most beautiful tree. It's just gorgeous. When we did have a snowfall, it was like the perfect tree. It looked so pretty. The better boxwoods that I planted have grown quite a bit. I am really excited for this variety, which I'm trying out. It's new. I was trying it out this year for the first time. I believe this is called Sky Tower, this variety. And it has kind of elongated leaves on it. This is one of the boxwoods that is bred to be boxwood blight resistant. And those grew a lot since I planted them. So that's quite exciting. The fastest growers of the whole bunch have been these columnar Norway spruces, this trio of them. These were purchased as the middle one was a 7-foot tall tree and these other ones were 6 feet tall. Oh, that's pretty good. Okay, so I am 5'2" or so. And this was purchased as a 7-foot tree. Let's just, hang on, I gotta go out a little bit farther, I think. So you can get, I mean, I don't know how much growth we had there, but that big spire at the top totally was new. So these grew a ton, just settled right in. And what you see here with these clethra is the reason that I planted, this is the reason I planted the clethra. I think these shrubs are absolutely stunning here in the off season with these beautiful, beautiful flower seed heads that are left on them. This is the Cornus moss that will look like the other one eventually. The soft serve Chamaecyparis are looking great. Now we do have some needle dieback in the middle, nothing I'm worried about, totally normal. There's a little bit of that, but they're still looking great. And I mean, knock on wood, I have been protecting things a little bit out here, but no issues with deer with them so far, but it's early days. Look at how pretty the Geranium macrorrhizum is looking out here. Even better than over in the other garden. And then this is our little Swiss stone pine. It's a slow grower, and that'll be a little bit sad because I wish it grew faster, but it's still a beautiful, beautiful tree. So if you look down this angle, so if you are coming into our driveway and you're looking down this angle, I mean, you can see how this will eventually be, just look from this angle like a full evergreen hedge. In terms of deer issues over here, we've been faring pretty well. I would say this pagoda dogwood right here, the one on the end, has been the most prone to deer browsing. They just snip the ends. So I've been giving this one a little bit of extra protection. And then the other thing that the deer have been going after, and some of you warned me about this, is the aronia. They really like the aronia, so they've been really nibbling at that. That's unfortunate. I love that aronia. So we'll have to take some extra protection measures for that, just make sure that I'm spraying. I am trying a couple of new granular products, which are much easier to apply in winter, in my opinion, than any kind of spray, and much more pleasant to apply in winter than a spray. But that's sort of the deer situation so far. I realize it's super early days. The deer, there's so much to eat right now. The deer aren't really even all that hungry, so I don't want to count my chickens on that. So there you have it, a winter garden tour. Believe it or not, the soil here is not frozen. I feel like I should probably be out here weeding. I see weeds. I could be weeding right now. I don't really feel like doing that, but I could be. I am feeling exceptionally fortunate to have this extra season of enjoying my garden, which is often not the case. In winter, I'm thinking about the garden, I'm planning for the garden. Rarely do I get to actually be in the garden enjoying it. So what a treat it is here right now. So thanks for watching I think the first winter garden tour. Maybe I've done one with snow, but I've certainly never done a winter garden tour like this before. Have a great day in your garden. Bye.